Welcome back. So continuing on with hormones, let's start learning about second messenger systems. So I'm going to start with one that hopefully you remember from the first semester of this course. And so let's talk first about some components of it before I put the whole moving scenario together. If you recall, we had enzymes known as kinases. And what kinases do is they catalyze the transfer of a phosphate group from a high energy molecule, such as you can see this ATP molecule, where there's a high energy bond between the second and third phosphate groups. And so what a kinase will do would break that bond and take that third phosphate group and transfer it to a different molecule, a substrate as it were. And you would end up with ADP as a result. So this requires energy. So this process of kinases doing their work is known as phosphorylation. And always remember in the back of your mind, this requires energy. Now, the second component is a G protein, and a G protein is the G has to do with the nucleotide guanine, and this is a protein that is found on, that's a peripheral protein on the inner aspect of the phospholipid plasma membrane, and it acts kind of like a switch inside the cell, but it needs to be activated. And the way it gets activated is when the hormone, because we're talking endocrine system, when the hormone binds to its transmural receptor, that receptor will then activate the G protein. And so the net result of the activated G protein, it takes whatever signal that hormone was trying to bring to the cell, and it will transfer it to the interior of the cell. And it transfers it by binding to an enzyme, which then causes a cascade of reactions. So in this particular picture, it's showing that it's binding to another peripheral protein on the inside of a cell. But I want to point out that this enzyme can be a transmural protein as well, as we will see shortly. So hopefully this part about the kinases and the G protein sounds very familiar. And if it doesn't, I want to refer you back to look in chapter 3 so that you can understand this whole relay system from the hormone to its receptor to the G protein to its enzyme to the second messenger. But let's continue on. And let's talk about how a substance known as cyclic AMP is being produced. For this, what has to happen is the hormone binds to its receptor, and so here's the bloodstream, and the black triangles are the hormones. And so this is considered the first messenger. In this case, it's binding to its receptor, which is a transmural protein, which then activates a G protein, which then is going to activate an enzyme. And for cyclic AMP production, that enzyme is adenylyl cyclase. Okay, and so that is going to have the adenylyl cyclase is going to have ATP be broken down and producing cyclic AMP. So 2 of the phosphate bonds are being removed. So cyclic AMP is the second messenger in this scenario. And in this one, it shows that it's activating an enzyme, which then can activate another enzyme, which then can activate another enzyme, which then can have the final product that produces whatever our net goal activity it was. So as you can see, second messengers are complicated. So this cellular response is going to be mediated by one of 2 methods. The first is protein kinase A, which is a kinase that we've talked about, and the other is a Krebs-induced gene transcription, which I don't think we've talked about yet. So cyclic AMP is a second messenger in review. The hormone, the first messenger, binds to its transmural protein. which then activates the G protein, which requires energy. The activated G protein then binds to adenylate cyclase. So you either can say adenylyl cyclase or adenylate cyclase. They're both the same chemical. And I want to point out that adenylate cyclase is a transmural protein once again. And this will then convert ATP to a cyclic ANP, which then activates an inactive protein kinase, which is going to cause phosphorylation of something else, and eventually we will end up with whatever we need to happen, which could be activating other enzymes or stimulating some kind of secretion or causing an ion channel to open, whatever it is. So that's it for cyclic AMP, and hopefully that was a review for you. And we're going to come back and we will talk about a different second messenger system, which is involved in the endocrine system.